They're a nasty little couple. They do nasty things.
What do you think happened with Kim
Keeping people against their will. Putting people on planes while they're unconscious, just like Aaliyah got on that plane. Unconscious. There's a lot of things that people don't want to talk about, Pierce.
Epstein, who may have some dealings with Diddy, he died in that plane. So they may have a good case, but it's still up to the prison system to decide where he go. And the lawyer, and they don't care how much money you got.
And with the frustration is why y'all didn't say nothing about it. That was my point. Well, how is nobody saying nothing about it? Like, this the girls, they know that it was a girl. He said he married a 15-year-old, and everybody at that point, until it became common or like it became the end thing to do, wasn't nobody disrespecting R. Kelly. Everybody was still going to his shows. Until it became popular opinion, people weren't looking the other way. So what I was disappointed in every fan that didn't care that this dude was a little girl. And actually, tried to, you can't sugarcoat it. You cannot marry a 15-year-old, period, in America. You know what I'm saying? But she died in the plane crash. There ain't no conspiracy there.
Yeah.
There is no conspiracy. The problem was, and again, a lot of things happened behind the scenes.
There are some stories that never really fade away. No matter how much time passes, they don't disappear. They just wait. They wait for the right moment, the right voice, or the right interview to come back into the spotlight. And when they do, they hit even harder than before. This is one of those stories, because this isn't just about fame. It's not just about music. This is about power, influence, and the quiet warnings that some people believe were ignored.
Who's the most iconic person to you that's ever worn your clothes? That's made you feel like, that's dope.
Can I give you 3?
You can I would love 3.
Okay. I'll give you 4, I'll give you 3.
You can give me 4.
Okay, Michael Jackson.
Wow.
Aaliyah.
Awesome.
Biggie, and Tupac.
Man, that's so dope.
I think, and what's crazy, when each moment happened, I didn't realize how big of a moment this was when they wore the clothes, you know what I'm saying, when these things happen. But again, once you live in the moment and accept the energy, things just happen your way. You got to be there to accept that moment, and we did each time. And that's why the brand is where it is today.
So when did Michael Jackson wear Karl Kani?
Yeah, that was cool. It's actually, it was on the front cover of Vibe magazine. It was when Kadada, Quincy Jones' daughter, she styled the shoot. She's the one who, she said Michael wanted to be hip again. So they got Michael to wear urban wear for the first time ever. So he wore Karl Kani, Tommy Hilfiger, and Diesel in the ad layout in the Vibe magazine. So him and Quincy and Kadada, all 3 had it on in the Vibe magazine special magazine that came out that that year.
Wow, that just sounds so amazing. I feel like Aaliyah was always iconic. Like, I mean, look at me, look what I got on. Like, she had such an influence. And Biggie would rap about wearing dope.
Yeah, Biggie mentioned, he's the first one to actually mention my name in his songs. When Biggie mentioned Karl Kani in his songs, I was like, wow, this is real. Like, I didn't realize the impact the brand was having on the streets back then. Cause back then there was no social media. Yeah. So you gotta kind of like, music and magazines told you the impact you were having. So for Biggie to mention my name in his songs, he could have mentioned any other brand, but it was just, that's what he wore, you know what I mean? Because we took care of the big man in clothing. We were the first brand to actually go up to size 60 and give big guys fashionable clothing to wear, which is one of the things that we wanted to do.
And allow them to start acting a fool.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I know it was something, when I saw white kids wearing Karl Kani, I was like, oh, he hit it. Like,
absolutely.
This is in the suburbs now. Yeah, how does that feel to know that everybody wants to wear your clothes?
Again, I give all homage to hip hop music, to be honest with you, because that was like the foundation. Like, as hip hop music grew, our brand grew, right? Because when we first started, no other clothing brand or designers wanted to embrace hip hop artists. Because first of all, no one thought it was gonna last. Yep. They also felt like if I start putting hip hop artists in these clothing, my original customer may not want to buy my clothing anymore. It's not until hip hop started to blow up they didn't care anymore. They knew they'll miss out on a big segment of where the youth is going now. So they had to embrace themselves with hip hop to stay in business, to get young men to start wearing their clothing and things like that. In terms of white kids wearing, it's like they follow what's cool. You know what I'm saying? And our biggest market in Europe, I mean, think about Italy and Germany, all white kids out there wearing it. But again, it was through the hip hop influence that started that whole movement in terms of fashion. And I remember I was just in Italy 2 weeks ago. One of his most popular rappers in Italy, he was telling me like how he's faced a lot of racism back in the days when he wore Karl Kani in the 90s. I was like, what do you mean? He said, oh man, like people like saying, why are you wearing those black people clothing? Why are you wearing this? Why are you wearing that? So we got the most rebellious kids out there switching to wear the brand. So we got all the street kids out there and they realize that they're the ones who really those influencing people in fashion. So those are the right kids that you want to wear in your clothing anyway.
At the center of it all are three names that changed the culture forever. A young star who seemed almost too pure for the industry, a legend who had seen everything behind the curtain, and insiders who are now speaking out years later, claiming there was more going on than anyone realized at the time. For years, fans have wondered, what really happened behind the scenes during Aaliyah's rise? Why do certain people keep hinting that she may have been surrounded by the wrong energy? And why do voices like Deal and Jaguar Wright keep bringing up the same name when they talk about protection? Michael Jackson. Because according to them, he wasn't just watching from a distance. He may have been trying to warn her. And if that's true...
So like with people and the way they act, when I see people that are bitter now, that are just like, are hurt for no reason or want to hurt people, I attribute it to something that happened to them when they couldn't protect themselves. Because I never got it, luckily. I never was traumatized when I couldn't defend myself. I was protected very well. I don't know who I would be if I got violated when I couldn't fight back. You know, I'm lucky enough to be untraumatized other than the things that other people are traumatized about, like death. Like I lost my mother at 16, but no one ever violated me. You know, I'm not mad at nobody. I don't feel like I have to get revenge. You know, I do want revenge for Aaliyah's death. I just don't know who to get.
Right.
And I was crying the other day about that, you know, but I don't know what the happened, man. But it's getting weirder and weirder. But I just feel like if somebody really did that, then someone deserves someone should avenge her.
Gotcha.
You know, it's a lot. That's what I'm saying. Everything that happens with this conspiracy, I gotta know them. I don't want to deal with that. I'd rather be in the crowd and be like, I wonder if this is real or not. Like now I remember all these years they were saying I was in the Illuminati and I was, what the f are you talking about? I don't have no money. Like, you know what I'm saying? I should have a lot more money. I'd have a lot more help. I don't have no brothers helping me. But now I'm like, oh, they might have really been in the Illuminati.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like it's inevitable now. It just, you know, it seems like the Europeans needed to, because what I'm understanding, you know, there was a war to keep the British out of America. So the only way they could get in America would be through someone that's American.
Right.
So it looks like they funded the Carnegie dude. He got his money from Europe. And I don't even believe the Rockefellers was like that even now. I don't even know if Mark Zuckerberg is like that. Anyone aggregating data, I'm like, you might work for the government. Someone just put you up there. If I can't figure it out, if I'm not like impressed with your logic when I speak to you, again, there would be certain people that are locked up now, and I'd be talking to them, and I'd be like, there's no business acumen. They don't even understand what's going on. How the f do they keep getting these deals? Where are they getting this money from? Like, I just be seeing people else money, and I just like, well, I know what you make. I know what you got to spend. I know about margins. I'm like, I don't know how you getting this kind of bread. So from now on, if I can't figure it out, you just pop up and you the Great Gatsby for no reason. You a spy. You know what I'm saying? Period. You either with Russia, Mossad, or, you know, the government, CIA. But that's the way you get people. You with their vices. You get them drunk, high, and then and it seems like they get you on camera, and then they blackmail you. And then you got to go against your friends. I don't think they want to. I think they got caught up.
So when you think that some people got caught up, like when you hear like, you know, some of your former friends like Pusha T.
I can't even comprehend that.
And Jay-Z,
honestly, even with him,
they're mentioning these files.
I just want to know why. Put it like this. Let's say they didn't do anything and someone's lining them up. Like, if let's say someone put me in them files right now, I know I never did no like that, but I'd be like, oh, they trying to line me up. I'd be more worried about the play because this shit seems deep.
Right.
Like now I'm starting to rewatch the documentaries. I watched that Epstein. I'm like, yo, this nigga was doing whatever he wanted. He might really be alive. Just the way the way no one's getting prosecuted and how he got that bid and how that was
But even to his death,
it's just a lot of it's a lot of people that have vices.
But even to his death,
like I'm like, anybody that's cool must like young girls. Because for me, I don't respect people that would violate women.
Right.
That's why I walked away. I don't want no parts. I don't want $1 of anyone that with little girls. And if you notice, I don't make $1. I made sure.
No, I remember when you talked about the R. Kelly situation.
In all of it.
Yeah, you was like, I don't want no money from it. Nothing.
So why you think I was all right with going to auction?
And you said that before the files came out, before everything.
Then the real question becomes, what exactly did he see? To understand why these claims are so powerful, you have to go back to the beginning, before the rumors, before the interviews, before the speculation took over.
When I first met her, she was like a kid to me, so I never paid her no mind. And I seen her like a basketball game once, and I was like, what up? But I didn't, she was a kid to me. So like, I wasn't listening like listening to her music like that or any of that. I kind of met her as like, I didn't even know it was Aaliyah when I saw her. I was like, who the fuck is that? She just looked mad good. That you know that picture that everybody puts up and it's like a Puff's party and we're all on the bed and all that other shit, pause. But like the big pictures, that's the night that we made it happen. So that's where I left, and that's where my life changed dramatically. Yeah, that day, that's when it happened. I was, like I said, me and homeboy was both getting at her. It was like one of us is gonna win, and I won.
So Jay, he was trying to get at her too.
Yeah, everybody knows that. He was going hard. It was Aaliyah. Everybody was going at Aaliyah. That's why it hurt so much when I was the one that got to get with her, but I wasn't even thinking I was gonna fall in love. But she just was too ill. She's too cool.
Was he feeling the type of way when you made it official with her?
Yeah, but I don't want to do that to him, bro. Obviously, you see what happened. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I would say so. His friends get with him.
Right. So what I do want to ask you about Aaliyah, what was the situation with Hype Williams where, he took her plane and she had to take the plane that he was using? Like, what happened with that?
No. She was in Miami and the video was supposed to be in Miami. And I had told her, I was like, Hype does this thing where he'll act like he needs more days just so he can get paid more. And don't let him do that. And then, all of a sudden she comes back and was like, he wants to go to the Bahamas. I was like, I told you he was gonna do that. And what I had heard was that, what I was told was she was supposed to be on Lenny Kravitz's jet, but like he offered it to her. And you could ask Lenny Kravitz, I guess. And Hype took it and had her on that plane. But he had to like pattern, like when we did Big Pimpin', like we're in hotels and he's in a house with a chef throwing dinners on our dime. And I'm like, well, why are we in a hotel and this nigga got his own house with a chef and we're paying for it? And that's why I cut Big Pimpin'. So I was like, I knew his tricks on what he used to do and how he used to play the labels. So I cut the video, like, we going back to Miami. So I knew that he was gonna try that same play with her, and he did. And then, if utilized for him as far as making, himself more comfortable than the artist on the artist's dime, I knew he was gonna do that.
Yeah, that's pretty dope, man.
Yeah, it is. Somebody should ask him about it.
Yeah, they should. I mean, she'll still be here. If she was on the plane she was supposed to be on.
I said a lot of things years ago, and they all realized themselves later. But the things that I found appalling for some reason 10 years ago, no one found them appalling when they were happening. It took for everyone to get busted for people to find it appalling. But no one ever says when they don't have to, because nobody really gives a. I've seen that firsthand. But once it becomes popular opinion, that's when everybody's appalled. You know, that's when they pay attention. That's when Dame was right again. But wrong in the moment, overreacting in the moment, but 10 years later, I was dead right. It's, again, another behavior pattern, a human trait that I don't even judge people for anymore.
For some observers, these gatherings represented normal celebrity networking. But for others, they became examples of the powerful circles young artists often found themselves navigating. This is the environment where some people believe Michael Jackson may have felt concerned, especially because he knew firsthand how complicated those circles could become. One person who has recently added fuel to these discussions is Gene Deal, a former bodyguard who once worked closely with Sean Diddy Combs. Over the years, Deal has spoken openly in interviews about what he claims to have witnessed during his time around the music industry.
Epstein, who may have some dealings with Diddy, he died in that place. So they may have a good case, but it's still up to the prison system to decide where he go. The lawyer, and they don't care how much money you got, but it's based on the lawyer. So that's why if you ever you seen online recently, people coming out, they getting ex-COs or wardens or detectives to speak out and say how dangerous Brooklyn MDC is. That's their lawyers them paying people to come out and talk about that, so to try to help persuade the courts, which is the part of the prison system, to see what they're gonna do. Would they do anything to say, yo, listen here, man, this guy's life might be danger over here because people think that he has something to do with Pac, people think he has something to do with Biggie, and they right here in Brooklyn. You understand? It's right here in Brooklyn, and some of the people are still mad that he made Making of the Band walk to Brooklyn from, you know, to get the cheesecake, and just around the corner from the Cheesecake Factory. So, I mean, juniors. So it might be some dumb. So y'all need to get him out of here and ship him to Jersey because somebody gonna kill him over here. Those are good arguments, if you want to call it, but it's bull. He gonna get the same treatment no matter how much money he got from them correction officers. Because if they don't and they get caught giving him preferential treatment, they gonna lose their job.
So you feel like Pac fans will try to do something to him?
Pac and Biggie fans. He can have issues with both of them because a lot of people think, because of the statement that Keefe D made, that he did something to Pac. A lot of people know or think that because of Biggie leaving, they finding out that Biggie was leaving Bad Boy, that he may have had something to do with Biggie. People feel that way. You hear it all the time. You see it all the time on the chats and all that stuff.
Have you heard the reports about Diddy being worried about his kids?
Bro, he get a phone call just like everybody else. And now they got all kinds of things where they got guys got iPads, people got telephones, iPads, and all that in prison. So his kids are well taken care of. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't worrying about those kids before he got locked up. Not like that. Maybe with the baby so, but the other girls, they seem like they fine. Quincy seemed like he's doing a good job in making sure that those girls are being taken care of. And the rest of everybody else is grown. Or they young adults. So that's just a ploy, bruh. All that's a ploy to, try to change the circumstances in this situation. But they won't change. His circumstances and situation as far as the correctional facility and where he's being housed at is not going to change until the courts tell him to change it. So all these things that the lawyers is putting up, all these things that the lawyers is saying, it ain't gonna do him no good, bro. It's not gonna do him no good until the courts and his lawyers come in with some good briefs and say, yo, listen here, our client should be released because he did this. If it's 3 months from now and Diddy has to go to, he's been in jail and then he has to go for another bail hearing, you better hope that he been in a drug program while he was in jail, he cleaned. You understand what I'm saying? He did something to show the judge that he's different from the first day he walked in.
Aaliyah wasn't just another artist trying to make it. From the moment she stepped into the spotlight, there was something different about her. She had a calm energy, a quiet confidence that didn't need to be loud to be felt. While others chased attention, she seemed to move with purpose, like she already understood how fragile fame could be. But what made her story even more complicated was how young she was when she entered the industry. She wasn't just learning music, she was learning people, learning power, learning how the business really worked, all while still growing up. And the truth is, the music industry has never been simple. Behind the awards, the hit songs, and the glamorous events, there are layers most people never see. Contracts, relationships, unspoken expectations, and circles of influence that can either lift you up or pull you into something much deeper. Now, here's where things start to connect.
Because the Me Too movement was a ruse. It was a setup. It was a scam. I'm saying that now, publicly. Dream Hampton spearheaded the Surviving R. Kelly campaign, which fueled the Me Too campaign. And that was all funded by Sean Carter to make sure that Robert Kelly went to jail. Get his lick back. Why is nobody understanding that Dream Hampton was being financed and ran by Sean Carter? They were able to go and get all of these witnesses because he was there with Robert Kelly. How does Jay-Z sit down with Gayle King and she not ask him one question about the intersection between him and Aaliyah and Robert Kelly? This is insane that people keep refusing to see what's right there. If the Me Too movement were real, why aren't they speaking now? They've also been very quiet in this time of the diddler's downfall.
Jaguar,
guess they're on vacation.
If this goes to court, Jaguar, do you think the world is going to be shocked by what comes out?
Oh, absolutely. I just don't know why they are. It's been happening in front of everyone's faces for decades. For decades.
How many victims?
What's the difference between me and Judy Garland? Social media.
How many victims?
There was none for her.
How many victims potentially do you think there could be?
Thousands. Thousands. I've talked to hundreds that I deal with still myself. I have 3 victims right now who are willing to give testimony about not only what Mr. Carter has done to them, but his wife as well. They're a nasty little couple. They do nasty things.
What do you think happened with Kim?
Keeping people against their will. Putting people on planes while they're unconscious, just like Aaliyah got on that plane. Unconscious. There's a lot of things that people don't want to talk about, Pierce.
Listen, like I said, Jay-Z and Beyonce are not here, unfortunately, to respond to that.
I know. I'm just being honest with you.
No, you're perfectly entitled to your views, obviously. Kim Porter, a new book claimed that Diddy may have been involved in her early death. What do you think of that?
I think people should really look into that more. I am friends with Albie Shore. I love him. I love his children. I knew Kim. We used to all hang out together at the Kit Kat Club back in the mid-90s when Diddy was first starting his reign. I watched that whole thing happen. And everything that Albert has been through, every attempt on his life that has been ignored by the authorities, it all leads back to Diddy. And everyone knows it. The wiretapping of the phones, putting AirTag on children during visits. These are normal practices that these people do.
Because Michael Jackson wasn't just a superstar. He was someone who had lived through every side of that world. From childhood fame to global dominance, he had experienced pressure in ways very few people could understand. And because of that, many people who worked around him said the same thing. He paid attention, especially to younger artists. He knew how easy it was to get caught in situations that looked normal on the outside, but felt different behind closed doors. He knew how quickly success could turn into control, and how people with power didn't always show their true intentions up front. So when Aaliyah started rising, some believe he noticed, not just her talent, but her environment. During the late 90s and early 2000s, Aaliyah's career was moving fast. Hit songs, major collaborations, film roles, she was becoming one of the most recognizable faces in music. But with that rise came access to elite industry circles, the kind filled with powerful executives, producers, and artists who controlled opportunities. And that's where things get complicated. Because according to voices like Gene Deal, those circles weren't always as clean as they appeared. Gene Deal, who spent years close to major figures in the industry, has spoken in multiple interviews about the hidden dynamics behind fame. He described environments where business, relationships, and influence were all connected, sometimes in ways that weren't obvious to outsiders. He suggested that younger artists often stepped into these spaces without fully understanding what they were walking into.
My favorite album is, I would say, Off the Wall, because I've been listening to it now. I got a couple favorites. Very difficult to say your favorite album, but you know, Off the Wall was one of those albums that were timeless, that didn't have a genre. It didn't have it was colorless. It was ageless. Like me and my mom listened to it. I listened to it. It was just like one of those things that the whole family, listened to. I think it was the perfect album. I think Thriller, although it was the biggest album, had huge records, but these records that were on Off the Wall was so timeless and, emotional, and I'm about to get the buzzer like I'm at the Grammys.
And when he speaks about Michael Jackson, there's a tone of respect, almost like he's talking about someone who knew more than he ever said publicly. According to Deal, Michael wasn't just another celebrity enjoying success. He was observant, careful, aware of how things really worked. And that's where the story takes a turn. Because Deal has hinted that Michael may have been concerned about certain situations involving younger artists, including Aaliyah. Now here's the twist. Jaguar Wright takes things even further. Over the past few years, Jaguar Wright has become known for speaking openly about the darker side of the entertainment industry. Her interviews are intense, emotional, and often controversial, but they always point back to one idea: that not everything in the industry is what it seems. She has repeatedly suggested that some artists knew more than they ever revealed publicly, and in her view, Michael Jackson was one of those people. According to Jaguar, Michael understood the system on a level that most couldn't even imagine. He had seen how power operated behind the scenes, how influence could shape careers, and how certain environments could become dangerous if you didn't recognize the signs early. And when she talks about Aaliyah, her tone shifts. She suggests that Michael may have tried, in his own way, to guide or protect her. Not in a loud public way, but quietly, carefully. The kind of warning that doesn't always come with full explanations, but carries a feeling that something isn't right. And what nobody expected was how these claims would connect years later.
It was just me and her. Like during that time, here's what the issue was. We all was, like a family. Missy, Timberland, her, myself, Magoo, Player, Tweet, all of us.
I love how you keep naming all of them. I love that. I love that. I love that.
I got to.
I love that loyalty.
I got to give it. That's the lawyers hear me.
I respect that.
But her and I weren't seeing eye to eye. You know what I mean? And I think it had a lot more to do with her loyalty to her uncle. Than it had to do,
Who you were beefing with at the time, or?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, cool.
With her uncle, Barry Hankerson, as he was the record head, and he was the company was my manager. I just decided to leave because of whatever reason. You know what I mean? And so, of course, her loyalty is to her family, and so that's where it pretty much stemmed from. We ain't had no beef or nothing. There's a woman. I ain't beefing with no girl. You know what I mean? But it was just one of those things where our time had separated. You know, and so I always wanted to make sure that we were cool. But, I never got the chance and an opportunity, to explain whatever it was because things that was happening, I'm pretty sure she was just being told whatever it was, the narrative of whatever it was with me. But it was a lot behind that. And I think at the end of the day, she understood. But Missy came and she told me one time she had a dream that Aaliyah said, "Don't worry about it, she forgive me." And I cried.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Take a shot for that.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yep.
Go ahead with the shot.
Rest in peace, Aaliyah.
Yep.
Woo! Where do you think Aaliyah would be if she was still alive in this day and time?
I would want her to be on the level where B is.
Talking about
Beyonce, yeah. But you just never know. I know that she was headed toward that direction. Like she was doing the movies, she was doing, of course, she was doing music, she was dancing and all that. So, we just will never know, and that's the bad thing about it.
Because when fans started revisiting old footage, interviews, and photos, they began to notice something. Aaliyah was often surrounded by powerful figures, industry leaders, influential artists, people with major control over opportunities and exposure. Now, that's normal in the music business, but the conversations started shifting. People began asking, was she just networking like every other star, or was she navigating something much more complex? And if Michael Jackson really was paying attention, what exactly caught his eye? Some insiders believe he recognized patterns, the same patterns he had experienced himself. Others believe these claims are being exaggerated, built on memories and interpretations rather than hard evidence. But the reason this story won't go away is because of how consistent the message feels. Different voices, different interviews, same underlying idea, that Michael Jackson may have seen something and tried to act on it. But here's where it gets emotional, because no matter what people believe about these claims, we all know how Aaliyah's story ended. Her passing in 2001 shocked the world. It didn't just feel like losing an artist, it felt like losing potential, a future that was just beginning to unfold. And when something like that happens, people start looking back. They look for signs, moments that might have meant more than they realized at the time. And that's why these conversations carry so much weight.
Because if there was even a chance that someone tried to warn her, it changes how people see everything.
It adds a layer of what if that never fully disappears. What if she had stepped away from certain circles? What if she had taken different advice? What if the warnings, if they existed, had been clearer? These aren't easy questions, and they don't have simple answers, but they reveal something deeper about the industry itself. Behind the fame, behind the success, behind the spotlight, there are human lives, real emotions, real risks, and sometimes real warnings. Michael Jackson's legacy has always been complicated, loved by millions, questioned by others, but one thing remains consistent. People who were around him often say he understood things most didn't, that he saw beyond the surface. And if the claims from Deal and Jaguar Wright hold even a small amount of truth, then maybe his silence wasn't indifference. Maybe it was caution. Maybe it was knowing that speaking too loudly in certain environments comes with consequences. As for Aaliyah, her legacy speaks for itself. Her music still lives, her influence is still felt, and her story still matters. But there's also a quiet sadness that comes with it. Because when people talk about her now, they don't just talk about what she achieved, they talk about what could have been. And that's what makes this story so powerful. It's not just about whether Michael Jackson tried to protect her. It's about the idea that someone might have seen danger and tried in whatever way they could to prevent it. Whether people believe these claims or not, they open the door to a bigger conversation about how the industry works, about how young artists are guided or sometimes left to figure things out on their own, and about how power can shape not just careers, but lives. In the end, the truth may never be fully clear, but the questions remain. Was Michael Jackson simply being supportive like he was with many young artists? Or was he trying to send a message, one that wasn't fully understood until it was too late? That's something only time, and maybe those who were really there, can answer. But one thing is certain, stories like this don't come back for no reason. They come back because something about them still doesn't feel finished. And maybe that's why we're still listening. So in the end, the question still lingers. Was it just concern or something deeper that we may never fully understand? Stories like this remind us that behind fame, there are real people facing real challenges. If this video made you think or opened your eyes in any way, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you believe really happened. And if you enjoy deep, emotional stories like this, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss what's coming next. Stay tuned because there's always more beneath the surface.